Okay, so the next part of our workshop today is I want to give you guys a little bit of a tour now that we've become a little bit more familiar with some of the geodatabase terminology and learned a little bit about data models. I want to kind of show you what we've got inside the geodatabase, and maybe we can apply a little bit of that terminology that we've kind of picked up on so that we can succeed this afternoon in our exercises. So let's see here. What we're going to do is everybody follow along here. I want to let's go to our Start menu and go to All Programs and the ArcGIS folder here, and we're going to open up ArcCatalog 10. And if you remember from earlier, ArcCatalog is our kind of data management and organizational program, and where ArcMap lets us kind of view and display and edit our data, ArcCatalog shows us we really work with the database itself, and this is your opportunity to move things around and create new containers to store things in and whatnot. So this will be a good way for us to look at the database itself. So the first thing we're going to do, let's...
ArcGIS and then what? Sorry.
Oh, it's ArcCatalog 10. So this program is laid out in much a similar way as ArcMap. You've got your standard set of menus across the top. You've got a series of toolbars with tools for performing different actions here. On the left, we have a similar kind of table of contents view called the catalog tree. That has connections to certain folders on our hard drive, a list of all those ArcToolbox tools for doing different kind of data manipulation and analysis tricks, connections to databases, either that you have on your computer in Access or FileMaker, or maybe on your network in SQL Server or Oracle if you're a bigger organization. And then connections to GIS servers, which can be online servers that you can connect to and download data from. So you could connect to, say, the USGS and be able to download their geology data without having to do much work at all, and be able to look at their information and pull it into your GIS. So lots of different things we can set up here. What we need to do is set up a connection to our data that we're going to work with today. So if you click on the button up towards the top here under the Edit menu, it says Connect to Folder. It's a yellow folder icon with a plus on it. We'll click on that, and then it brings up this Connect to Folder box here. And if you remember that if we our data is on our hard drive, our C drive, so if we expand the computer here by clicking on the little arrow next to it, click on the or expand the little arrow next to local disk C. We can just click on our GIS for Public Gardens Workshop folder and click OK. And now this kind of creates a shortcut for us that we can use to get to our data really quickly throughout all of our exercises today. Now in this folder you'll see the same kind of view that we saw before when we looked at it through Windows Explorer. We see our Arnold Arboretum folder that we were just looking at the data from in ArcMap, and then our UC Davis Arboretum folder. Let's double click on the UC Davis Arboretum folder. And we'll see in here we've got a gray cylinder icon. It says UC Davis Arboretum. That is, it's a file geodatabase. So this geodatabase is kind of a container that contains all of the data that we're going to be working with today. And this is actually what we call an empty database, is that there's really not much inside of it. So we've set up all the different data structures and containers for storing all the information that we want. But there's not much inside of it at the moment. So if you double click on UC Davis Arboretum here, you'll see it expands, and there's a bunch of different things inside of here. And at the top, one of the first objects we see in our database is called Aerial Photography Catalog, which says it's of type raster catalog. And what this is a container that we can use to store all of our aerial photography for our garden. So When we start our GIS project, we may have photography for a recent year or even the current year. So maybe we have 2009 or 10 or 11 or even 2012 area photography. But as time goes on, we'll find that that photography gets to be outdated, and we want to get more recent photography that shows changes that have happened in the garden. So maybe you put in a new exhibit or a new building on your property. You may want photography that's a little bit more current that allows us to see those things. But you know, having the older stuff is always good too, so you can go back to a point in time and see how things are. So as we accumulate this photography, we might end up with several years of it. And this little aerial photography catalog can be thought of as a container that you can use to store all that photography in. So you can load all that stuff in there and then look at different points in time. So that's what that raster catalog is. And then we've got this next thing down here is called a feature data set, and the base map feature data set is kind of like a folder that groups together different objects that share some kind of relationship with each other. So if we double click on that, it'll open up and we can see that there's all sorts of different stuff inside of this one. And this is where the majority of the things that are part of the data model are contained. So let's walk through a couple of these and get an idea of what they're all about. At the top here, we've got this thing called area of interest that has an icon with a bunch of polygons in it. So this is a polygon feature class. So it holds only polygon type data. So if you wanted to store points or lines in this thing, it wouldn't work. You can only store polygons in here. An area of interest is used to denote, just as it says, kind of areas of interest in our garden. So one of the primary uses of it is we use it to store kind of a boundary of our entire data set. So if we hit the preview button here, you can see that this is one of the only things in the database that has anything inside of it. And we've got this big square in here. So it doesn't really look like much, doesn't really make a lot of sense now, but you'll see when we add it into ArcMap that this actually lines up with our aerial photography and creates kind of a bounding box for our data set that we can use to either kind of clip down larger data sets to, or just serve as a border for cartography. If we click on the next tab over here at the top, we can click on description, and the description tab will tell us a bit about what this particular feature class is used for. You can see it's got a title and some tags that we can use when searching for this thing, and a little summary of what this feature class is used for, and then a little bit more of a detailed description. So you can click on any one of the feature classes on the left in the catalog tree and see what it's for as well. So you can see that the bench feature class is used for storing benches, chairs, and tables. You can see that maybe the geology feature class is used to store the boundaries of geologic units. So this is a good way to find out what all these different things in the data model are used for. If we click back on the Contents tab, and then you also need to click on the Up One Level button that's under the File menu on the upper left, and it gets us back to where we were. So if we want to continue to explore some of this stuff in here, we'll see that we have the next object down is the barrier feature class, which has a little line icon. And this means that it's a line type feature class and is only used to store things that are type line. So barriers, things like fences and whatnot, are generally pretty linear features, so that's why this is a line type. And we could preview this, but there's nothing in there, so there's nothing to see. We could get the description on it. One thing we can also do too is if you either right-click on it and hit Properties, or double-click on it, it'll open some more detailed information about this particular object here. And here it says that it's of type line feature class, so we can see that. We can see the coordinate system assigned to this. Remember we talked a little bit about subtypes. You can click on the Subtypes tab, and you can see a list of all the different subtypes associated with this particular barrier object here. So we can have a barrier that's of type fence. It could be a gate. It could be a moat. In the case of zoos, they generally they'd sometimes dig little moats with water around animal enclosures. It could be a railing. Could be a seat wall. Could be a retaining wall. So all sorts of different types of things here that we talked about. If you click on the Fields tab, you can also see a list of all the different fields that we have associated with this particular feature class. So it has a field for the function, the type, the width, the height, any kind of security that's associated with this barrier, construction type, construction material, things like that. So lots of different things about that, and you can look at this information for any one of these feature classes here. And you can also see on the Relationships tab any relationships that this feature class participates in. So in this case, a barrier may have entrances and exits, so ways to get through it. It may have planted hardscape or plants growing up on it. And an enclosure, an animal enclosure, may have barriers, so it may have a fence around it. So these are different relationships that exist in the model. So we don't have to worry about too much of this stuff today. I just wanted to kind of show you under the hood here. And if we keep scrolling down, you see the next thing here is a relationship. So I just said that barriers have entrances and exits, or ways through them. So this is a relationship between barrier, the fence, and the entrances and exits feature class that's a little bit further down in our list. And it just basically connects those two things together. Even a little bit further down, if you remember from our terminology, we talked about the topology, or that little list of rules that kind of controls the quality of our data in our database. If we double click on this base map topology here and click on the Rules tab, we can see all the different rules that we have built into our database, and there's all kinds of them here. But if we look at one of them just for an example, we can see that let's look for a good one here that makes sense. That, here you go, structure must not overlap planting area. So if you've drawn in an area where you can plant plants, it's usually open soil on your property. You don't want a building going over the top of it. In this rule, if you did a kind of a sloppy job drawing that stuff in there, this will help you identify that error and clean it up so that those things line up nice and square against each other. So all sorts of different rules in there that you can use to help control your data. Yeah?
So that wouldn't prevent you from drawing a line, but you would just sort of make them so they didn't overlap.
Correct. So if you could, it wouldn't prevent you from doing anything, and there may be a case where you do want it to happen. There may be a case where you actually do have a building that goes over water. So you can break the rules if you want to, but it will tell you that you've broken them, and will kind of identify them in different colors on your map for you. And we're not going to have a chance to really go over that, but I wanted you to know that exists in the model. Okay, so that's just about it. Let's go back. Let's go up one level and get out of our base map feature data set. So hit the up arrow under File. And then a couple other things that are in the model. We have tables. I mentioned you can have just kind of standard database tables of rows and columns. So some tables that we have in here, we have one that stores product information, and this is linked to anything that's considered a product. So if you've purchased benches for your garden, you can have information in this table that contains the manufacturer and model number and warranty information, linked to the vendor's website if you want. So we can store all kinds of information like that. And then finally, there's this red toolbox here called the Public Garden Tools, that if you double click on it, contains some tool sets that are grouped together. And these are some tools that are associated with the data model that we've used to help kind of perform some common tasks. So if you go into the plant collection one, you can see that we have a tool here that calculates latitude and longitude. You remember that we saw that there was a latitude and longitude field in our Plant Center feature class. This tool, if you wanted to fill all that data in, you can run this tool and it will automatically fill in that data, so you're not trying to do it manually. So just a cool few little shortcuts here to help move things along. And let's see, is there anything else we need to talk about? I think that's about it. Okay, so